Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the House of Moisture. Today we're looking at Season 2 of Game of Thrones. Just finished that shit, and I gotta say it's a bit of a step down from Season 1. Now the storytelling, characters, writing, acting, all of it's still top-notch. There's no complaints there. However, I know the budget for the season was bigger than the first one, but it looks significantly worse. There's a lot of shitty CGI just sprinkled here and there throughout the entire season. Like, it starts off with like a pretty shitty CGI wolf that's threatening Jaime while they have him captured. And then, like, the next episode, they have a panning shot of King's Landing where Shay's looking over it, and King's Landing looks like a PS2 cutscene. It looks like shit. There's so much bad CGI, and those are two easy examples right from the beginning. I don't know what happened. I don't know where the budget was spent. Maybe the actors demanded more since the show got so popular so quickly. I don't know. It certainly didn't go to its visuals because that was pretty lackluster. But it's not that big of a deal. It's not enough to make your penis go from super hard to super soft. It's really not huge, but it's definitely something disappointing to see. One thing that I think is a pretty big complaint is there's some shit in this season that just is childish. For example, the Red Priestess birthing a shadow assassin to kill Renly that's never really explained or touched on, and it's just silly. You know, she just gives birth to a shadow ninja that kills Renly, who's a huge character in the show, and he gets a death like that with no reason given for how it happened or why. I thought that was really lazy writing. Hopefully it's touched on in the next season or the seasons after, I don't know. But even if it is explained beautifully, can't help but feel incredibly underwhelmed that a character like Renly that commands such a huge force is taken out like that. I also feel like there's a bit of oversight where characters make decisions that don't really make sense. For example, when Asha gets free of Theon Greyjoy's captivity, she takes a knife and kills a man outside his house. She could have turned around and killed Theon because he was asleep. He had just fucked her and she had a weapon. He was not, he wasn't ready to defend himself unless his erect penis was going to start like slashing at the sword and deflecting it. She could have easily gone back and finished that job and closed that entire plot point, and it would have made sense for her character to do so, but instead she kills the guard and then runs away with the boys. I feel like that was just a bit of an oversight as well. Overall, the season is not bad, but I feel like this entire season was devoted to setting the stage for the later events to follow and hopefully season 3. And not that that's a bad thing, but it makes for a pretty stale season. I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of substance that really transpired in the season. You got introduced to a few new characters. I really like Jaqen. I think he's a really silly but likable character. Jaqen's the man who was at the mountains camp. He's the guy who talks like a pretentious fucking anime-loving Redditor. A man asks a girl for a name, and the girl give man own name of man. Man want girl to unname man. But then he also goes and like kills people super efficiently. So it's goofy, badass shit, and I thought it was just really fun. I thought he was a cool character. But the whole season really just seems to be setting itself up for later events, which leads to a bit of a stale season. The last 2 episodes, though, had really fun conclusions to some storylines that I enjoyed, and I also liked the more development over some characters. I'm really starting to enjoy Tyrion Lannister a lot. I think he's a very, very strong character. I'm excited to see how he goes throughout the rest of the show. But like I said, I can't help but be let down. I think it is a bit of a step backwards. Season 1 not only set the stage, but delivered on some really key plot points that really felt huge in the season. Season 2, I don't think really has anything like that aside from maybe Theon Greyjoy's betrayal, and that's about it. Stannis' army getting, thrown back as well, obviously, at the end of the season, but everything in between just seemed like such filler shit, like a Naruto filler arc with nothing really important or interesting happening. It was very slow, and I didn't care for the pacing all that much. I still enjoy the characters talking to each other and shit like that. The entire show is basically just game of passive aggressiveness. Every time a character talks to another character, it's nothing just fucking passive aggressive threats, which is, fun. It's good fun. But when the entire season revolves around just those conversations and not much else, there's really, there's not a whole lot to like about that. Not bad. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's bad, but definitely disappointing in comparison to season 1. I'm going to go ahead and let Jackson give his thoughts on it now.
So season 2 is more or less what you'd expect continuing on from season 1. It's still, a very character-heavy season with great performances from every member of the cast. Nothing really changes in the set or costuming department. The writing's still great, all that stuff. Basically what you would expect from early Game of Thrones. It's still great because mostly it's a sincere adaptation of A Clash of Kings, the second novel, and kind of respects the audience's intelligence maybe a bit too much this season, with some scenes feeling disjointed, with many new characters entering the show, like a lot of new characters entering the show, and that may be confusing to some people, like Charlie. A lot of the events that happen in the show, and by extension the book, are there to set up the next few seasons, so the events that happen aren't necessarily that impactful yet. This is just a very dialogue heavy season, and that may be a downside to a few, with there being not a whole lot happening until the final 2 episodes. It feels less enjoyable than season 1, but not all too much, and I would personally give it an 80 out of 100. But I have since joined my noble house with Charlie's, and we came to a compromise as noble houses do, and decided to give it a 75 out of 100 on the moist meter. The highlights of the season were episode 6 with the great King's Landing riot scene, and Theon fully committing to taking Winterfell. There's some ghastly scenes in Winterfell in episode 6. Episode 9 with the Battle of Blackwater was expertly translated to screen and really showed for the first time in Game of Thrones history that action could be done well. And episode 10 as well, with the fantastic set of scenes in both Karth and Beyond the Wall, really established Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen as great characters. Standouts in terms of performances for the season would go to Peter Dinklage for Tyrion and Lena Headey as Cersei for really expanding on those characters in a fantastic and entertaining way. Anyway, that's it for this season. We'll see you with season 3 soon, as soon as we finish binging it. We're up to episode 6 right now, so it'll be soon.